What's up, everybody? This is Hunter Dslr with Recruit Creative, and I'm excited to announce a new series called Filming the Hunt. I decided to start this because I received many questions over the last few years on what camera gear to get, what camera do I need, how do I get started. I know there's a lot of questions and it can be super intimidating from the moment you start looking at cameras, so I just wanted to look at it from a budget perspective and also a quality perspective, and hopefully I'll cover all of those different topics and questions that you may have throughout the videos. I also want to go over how to set up in the stand and just any tips or tricks that I've learned over the last few years. And then after all of those videos are said and done, I kind of wanted to jump into a little bit of the editing process as well and show you some of the different softwares that we use and what the best ones are out there and the price points you're looking at. So if you're somebody that's interested in starting to film hunts, this is going to be a good platform for you. We'll try to answer any questions that you have. So stay tuned with this series, and hopefully you'll learn something by the end of it. We're not experts by any means, but these are just some things that we've learned over the years of doing this. So the first thing that I want to dive into here are the things that you should consider before you go out and spend all this money. First and foremost, you got to know how much you're willing to spend, because you can spend anywhere from $500 to $5,000 in a matter of minutes. And I don't recommend spending over $1,000 just to get started. When I started out, I started with like a $200 camera and a $30 camera arm. And that taught me the difficulties of it all and what equipment I really needed from there on out as I got older and started making money and getting jobs. And they weren't just Christmas presents. These turned into goals and different pieces of equipment I needed. So really, I've got it a little backwards on the list. Number 2 should probably be in number 1 spot, and that's why do you want to film your hunt? From the beginning, you need to know what you're going to do with this. What's your motivation behind it? Are you just trying to make memories and capture them on film so that you can look at them for the few years to come, or are you trying to become a YouTube star? Let me tell you, it's not easy. We have been at this for 5 to 10 years now and are only at 400 subscribers. Now, whether that's our videos suck or it's just hard to build a good channel, that's kind of up to you. But there's so many different people wanting to do this. The market's just so saturated. It's going to be hard for you to become famous at this. I mean, it's not something that everybody wants to watch, and you really come to the point where you realize that you're doing it more for yourself than you are for other people's entertainment. So you need to consider that from the beginning and just be realistic with yourself and know that this isn't just going to happen overnight for you. The third and fourth questions really kind of go together. Are you someone who likes to prepare? And do you have the time? I'll just start off with the time part of it. It's going to take you an extra 20 to 30 minutes a lot of times just to get your base on the tree for your camera arm and get everything set up before the hunt and take it down after the hunt. And if you're someone who's not prepared for that, you're going to have a tough time just because of all the different things you have to remember to bring to the tree and take down. It's a whole process, and it takes a while to get used to. So you need to be prepared. You need to have your batteries charged and carry multiple SD cards on you. That way, whenever you forget one, you've got another backup. So if you're somebody that doesn't have time for this and you don't like to be prepared, this probably isn't for you. The fifth and last question that I'd like you to ask yourself is, do you have a partner that's going to help you film, or are you going to self-film? I know that there's a lot of people that do both. That's what I do a lot. I either self-film or I'm filming my dad, I'm filming Jordan. And it really makes a big difference as far as your equipment and what you need to film. So, like, if you're going to film a buddy, you're going to have another stand, but you're going to be able to split the gear up on the way in. You're not going to have such a heavy pack as opposed to self-filming where you're going to have to carry every single thing, and it's going to take you a little bit longer to get set up. So that's just another thing you need to consider. So after you've made the decision to film, you're going to need several different things to get started. Some of these things I consider must-haves, and others are optional, and I consider getting those after you film for a while. I consider that to be a smarter option. The must-haves, you got to have a camera. You got to have a camera arm or a tripod, depending on where you're going to film. You have to have a fluid head. The fluid head is what attaches the camera to the camera arm and allows you to rotate for smooth motion. And I put in there last that you're going to have lots of extra time. Like I mentioned, it's going to take you extra time to get set up, and that's something you need to consider. The optional accessories are the microphone, a desktop computer or laptop, and editing software. The microphones are very important if you're somebody that's going to make videos out of this and post them on YouTube. You're going to want to have a mic because the camera's audio always sucks pretty much. And then you're going to have to look at getting a laptop or a computer that can handle the software that you're going to need to make these videos. I'll just tell you from the get-go, our editing software, we use Premiere Pro. We used to use Vegas Pro, and we found that on YouTube. We found a link for that, and I will not tell you whether that was legal or illegal. So there are three main types of cameras that you can use to film your hunts. I'll start all the way over there at the left. DSLR/mirrorless cameras. These have detachable lenses, and technically a DSLR and a mirrorless camera are two different things. But for the sake of this video, you can pretty much pretend they're one thing. They're very good as far as you can take pictures with them, and you can also video with them. But you're going to be talking some serious money whenever you get into these things. The next camera is a point and shoot. I consider it to be more of a second angle camera, unless you're hunting a spot where a deer's going to come within 10 to 15 yards of you. These don't have very good ranges, but they can also take pictures. And the third and final category I'd like to talk about are professional/consumer style cameras. The one at the top there, the Canon, is more of a consumer type, and the one at the bottom is kind of an in-between, but I lean more professional on it. And these are going to be the best cameras as far as getting the most out of your money whenever looking for a camera to film your hunts. So like I mentioned, if you're looking to get the most out of your money, you're going to want to get a professional or consumer style camera. I've left recommendations with links in the description below just to kind of point you in the right direction if you're still confused. But I'd like to talk about some of the advantages and disadvantages that come along with these style of cameras. The best part about it is if you're somebody that's not looking to spend $1,000, you can find plenty of these cameras, in the $300 to $1,000 range. And if you're somebody that has the extra money to spend, wants to get something a little bit better, you can find something with a nice price point around $1,000. And the best part about these things are that they're beginner friendly. It's one of those cameras that you can just charge the battery, put an SD card in, take it straight out to the field, and pretty much just have to work a zoom and a record button. Maybe not on the more professional style cameras, but it's still going to be super, super friendly for you to learn how to use. Something else that I love about these cameras is that they're typically great in low light and great in zoom. And basically, from what I understand, as far as the zoom works, if you're looking at like a 10 times zoom, it's going to make something that's at 100 yards look like it's at 10. And if it's at 300 yards, it's going to make it look like it's at 10 yards if you have a 30 times zoom. So that's something to research a little bit more. I think anything over 20 is pretty darn good. And probably 10 or under, you're going to want to kind of consider where you're going to be hunting at and if you're going to be able to reach. And that's also something that you can work around in post-production. You can kind of crop in and, save yourself some money by not having to buy that camera with a super great zoom. I'd say that the disadvantages of these cameras are that the extra batteries can sometimes be around $100. Typically, the battery life on them are pretty good, though, and you might be able to get away with one battery on charge for a couple hunts at a time. Also, the disadvantage would be that the quality can start to lack whenever you get around the $300 range. Don't get me wrong; these things are plenty good enough for a YouTube channel. Like you're not gonna upload things that are typically over 1920 by 1080p. So if you think you gotta have 4K, you're wrong. There's no reason to have 4K right now. If you're gonna be a YouTube star, all you have to have is 1920 by 1080. So don't get caught up in the quality. And if you're gonna have the extra money spent in something, I would put it in the editing software where you can make color corrections and things afterwards that don't have to be spent in the camera to have a good quality picture. The next camera that I'd like to talk about are DSLR / mirrorless cameras. If you're somebody that's wanting to take pictures as well and learn a little bit about photography, this is going to be the way to go. The video quality and the picture quality are both amazing, and really you can be a pretty good photographer without knowing a single thing about taking pictures. If you're somebody that wants to learn a lot and have full manual control over what you're taking the picture of or what you're videoing, a DSLR or a mirrorless camera is the way to go. It's going to take some time to learn how to use the different manual controls of the camera, like your aperture, your shutter speed, your ISO. If you're wanting to use the camera in manual mode, it is going to take some time. You're going to have to learn how to do that, but there's different ways to work around that where you really don't have to know a whole lot about it. You can put the camera in program auto, and it will take care of all those things for you until you learn how to adjust all those different things. So another thing that's great about these cameras are that most of them are unbelievable in low light, especially the mirrorless cameras. I have a Sony A7S II, and I think that thing's probably 5 years old by now, and I can see better through that camera monitor after it gets dark than my own eyes can. It's pretty incredible what it can do in both photography and videography. So just know that there are a lot of disadvantages that come with these things too, and especially for somebody that self-films, it's super, super difficult to film with this thing by yourself. And the reason being is you have that lens on the outside, and the only way to zoom in or zoom out is to twist that lens. So if you can imagine having a bow in your hand, trying not to move much, being able to draw back and follow a deer with the camera at the same time, there are endless possibilities to be spotted and endless possibilities to make noise and just totally miss the shot with the camera. So that's something you need to consider as well. And if you're going to buy one of these cameras, you better figure on spending an extra $1,200 or so just for another lens, because it's super hard to find an optimum lens for filming deer with. You're going to need something like a 70 to 200 millimeter lens, and the problem you get into there is you have to sacrifice one thing to get the other. So if you want long range filming, you're going to have to get something like a telephoto lens, but that long range lens a lot of times will not zoom all the way out to where if you had a deer at 20 yards, you might not even be able to get that thing in the view. So you kind of have to sacrifice one thing or the other, or try to get that in between lens, which is a lot of times very pricey. So please look at the price of the lens before you go ahead and buy these cameras, and make sure that you have enough money to do this thing right. You don't just want to go out there with like a 50 millimeter lens and try to film a hunt with it. It's going to be very hard. Lastly, we'll talk about the point and shoot cameras. They're great second angle cameras. They serve the same purpose as like a GoPro would, but you're able to take amazing pictures with these things as well. They're much like a DSLR or mirrorless camera in that you still have the ability to have full manual control, and they're just super packable. You can fit this thing in your pocket, and it really can save your butt at times whenever you're filming or self-filming, really. There's times where you're going to make mistakes with the camera and you're going to have some shaky footage, and by having this second angle camera on, you can, in post-production, you can cut back and forth between different views to really cover those bad spots up. But this thing, you can find some good ones. I think Canon makes like a G7X or something like that, around $500, and I think it has pretty good reviews. So that's something I would definitely look at as far as having a second angle camera. But you can also get pretty pricey with these things if you're looking at something that maybe does 120 frames per second or more, so that you can get that super slow-mo. But battery life on these things, basically junk. They don't last long at all. And if you try to get one of those cheap batteries on Amazon, one of the knockoff brands, it's really not worth it. They won't last long at all. And another disadvantage of this thing is that you can't plug in an external mic that I know of. You might be able to find some out there that you can, but if you're wanting to do, like, say you're wanting this to be your main camera, which I don't recommend. I don't think the zoom's far enough on it. But if you want it to be your main camera, or you want to just do some interviews on it with some great audio, you're not going to be able to plug in that external mic. There's just no port for it. And that's not saying that the camera doesn't have decent audio itself, because I do have a Sony, like the one that's pictured there, that really does a decent job with it. But these things are just basically extra tools that you can add later on. It's one of those optional things, and it's great to have, but at the same time, you really don't need it to make a great video. So that's it as far as camera selection goes. I might have some useful information here in the coming videos, but the next video I'd like to come up with is going to go over different camera arms and tripods that you may need, as well as fluid heads and just some different accessories that you're going to need to film your hunt. So if you would, subscribe to our channel, like this video, and I hope everybody's having a good season, and I hope that you found this video to be helpful. You can comment on your different cameras, what you have, what you like, things you disagree with. I'd just love to hear some feedback in the comments below. So thanks for watching.